It's good to see you. Welcome to another edition of Bible Shorts with Biblebob. I think we're on to like number 72, which is really a pretty cool number. The lesson that we did in school today, so I may have told you before, I'm a teacher for 7th and 8th grade students in a Christian school. I teach debate, public speaking, and creative thinking, I call it. And we debate all kinds of topics. We need to debate Bible topics. We need to debate apologetics, supposedly. We learn apologetics, is a better way to put it. We teach them public speaking and how to stand up and boldly speak for what they believe in. And we also debate civics. We debate common and current events in the world that are happening now. Because a lot of times we don't want to have kids have us bury our heads in the sands when kids get questions. And they do have a lot of questions. But I have my lesson planned for today, and the lesson is called Cultivating Curious Minds. It's a really cool lesson, but before I get into that lesson, something else happened in the middle of the night. So my wifey and I, a couple of old heads, we usually go to bed kind of early. 8:30 is our bedtime, and I may be up at 3:30, whatever. So last night, went to bed at 20 to 9. At midnight, boing, I'm awake. And I couldn't sleep. So I woke up. I think I laid there for about an hour, and I finally woke up, and I walked into this room here, and I guess you could call this our recording studio when we use it. I'd rather be out on location, but there's a purpose for being here today. So behind me is a nailed cross. If you're watching our YouTube channel online, in fact, at least I encourage you. I know you're a podcast. If you're listening on that, we appreciate you. But when you get a minute, check out the YouTube channel, subscribe so you can see some of the things that we show. There's a reason for the videos that we do. So this cross is made out of like tapered nails. These are the nails that you would see in the olden days. We used to have a barn up in Buffalo that was built by the Ebenezers who came over from Germany. And some of the wood beams were actually hand hewn, and wood like dowels were pounded into them. But there was also the old time nails that, if you can see it, it has like a wide on the top. It's wide until it goes down to a skinnier bottom. And it's like flat, it's not round. And it was the way they did nails. So this particular cross has about, unless I counted them wrong, 72 different points on there. And when I came into the room here, the office last night, trying to be quiet, not to wake up the wifey, I looked at it, and every time I looked at it, what I think about is the nerve pain points that Christ must have had on the cross. So the nerve pain points of the crucifixion is what I began studying. And I don't want to go through the whole history of crucifixion for you. You can go look it up online. But there was a lot of different things that they did. And as it was in Persia when it started, and then it evolved, what they wanted to do was make it more painful. They wanted the person to suffer even more, to keep them alive as long as they could so that they could give them as much pain as they could. It was a horrible, crucifixion itself, I think, is a Latin term meaning excruciating, and it truly was excruciating. So, and when you look at the nerves, the first thing they did, and not the first, there was a couple of things they did. So they put a crown of thorn on Jesus' head. I've never had a migraine, but I know a lot of people have. The nerve endings in your head can give you the most excruciating pain of all. It's like when you're thinking about pain in here, it just blinds you. And I know I've had some bad headaches, but not like some people get them. So they give him the crown of thorns. He's got nerve pain going on in there. And just to give you an example of the nerves in the human body, scientists say, now take this with a grain of salt because scientists say a lot of things. Scientists say there are over 7 trillion nerve endings or points in the body. 7 trillion. That's a T, trillion. And there's 45 miles or 72 kilometers, interesting number, of nerves in the human body. Square inch on your lips, there's 2,000 nerve endings per square inch. Maybe that's why kisses are so electric. So those are just a small sample of the nerves in your body. So Jesus has the crown of thorns. Then they whip him. Now, when they whip him, they would stretch your arms out away from your body So the whip itself was, they would have different descriptions. I've heard of shards of metal and bone in there, and they would hit you on your back and wrap it around and rip here, rip there, rip your stomach, rip your bottom parts and private parts in as much pain as possible. It would shred muscle and make you bleed. And the Roman law says you could only get 40 lashes because they didn't want you to die from the whipping. They wanted you to die a slow death. And so you got the crown of thorns, you got whipped, and then you had to carry this crossbeam, and then they nail things. The nails go through the wrist and not through the hand, because your body, your weight of your body wouldn't be supported by a nail through the hand. There's not enough structure there. So it would go through here. You've got like a median nerve that would send flames up in here. And every time you moved, the nail would touch the nerve and just shoot pain into you. Same thing with your feet. And the feet were actually in a bent. If you look at a cross and you see Jesus on it, just notice that the knees are bent. It's almost like a anatomically wrong position. And most people believe that it was a form of suffocation. You hang on the cross, you can't breathe, your knees are bent, so you reflexively push up to breathe. And when they're done having their sport, they break the leg so you can't push yourself up and death comes quick. So the point was, I look at this and all of these different nerve endings, the punishment that Jesus took. And when I told the kids in school today, sometimes I think we kind of minimize and we don't realize how excruciating it was physically, mentally, emotionally. You were betrayed by friends. You're carrying the weight of the sin of the world. It was your purpose, and you knew you were going through it. And even in the garden the night before, Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me. But he was willing to go and do what he had to get done. So now, if the backdrop of that, if God would send his own son to go through that excruciating pain, is it really that hard for us to share the word of Christ so that other people might know that kind of love? I think that's kind of powerful. It's almost like the pain that he was willing to endure, so that we ought to be able to be happy and be grateful that he would do that for us. We ought to be sharing his name with other people. So that's where our lesson went through today. And good friends of mine, Mike and Lisa Kistner, they're the leaders and pastors of Starfish Ministries up in Buffalo. And I was kind of surprised. I asked the 7th and 8th grade today if you've heard the Starfish story. And they said they hadn't. Well, the Starfish story was originally written by, let me give you his name here if I can see it in the small print. It looks like, it'll be in my notes. It's Lauren Easley, something like that. Anyway, I want to give you the short version of the story. So the story is, there's a little girl on a beach, thousands of starfish are stranded. She's picking them up one at a time, throws them back in the ocean. A man comes along and says, hey, little girl, what are you doing? Well, I'm throwing starfish in the ocean. He says, you're wasting your time. You're not making a difference. All of a sudden, the girl gets a sad face because having an adult give you bad news, it's not very nice. But then she brightens up. She picks up another starfish. She goes, but I'm making a difference for this one, and throws it in the ocean. And with that, the guy starts picking up starfish and they both throw them in, making a difference for that one. So that's the Starfish Ministries. Mike and Lisa and their church are making a difference for one person at a time up in Buffalo. And a lot of people have been just received the good news of Christ through that. So Mike is going to be doing a survey to be able to go out into the streets and be able to help people. It's like, well, here's a short survey just to start a conversation. And they're actually pretty cool. They're going to say, hey, here's $5 or something. Take this survey because your time is valuable. So today, the lesson for the kids, the students, was to come up with some questions. But here was the lead-in, though. In John chapter 8, verses 6 through 10. Well, let me read it to you so I get it right. So this is really cool. So they were only testing Jesus. They hoped to trap him. So what it was, there was a woman caught in adultery, probably cheating on her husband. That's the only way she's going to be doing adultery, right? So she's doing adultery. She's caught in adultery. And they come to Jesus. They say, hey, the law of Moses says we're supposed to stone her. What do you think? They're trying to test him is what they're doing, trying to set him up and trap him. So that's where the story begins. So you got a bunch of Pharisees and Jesus is there with the woman. And They were only testing Jesus because they hoped to trap him with his own words and accuse him of breaking the laws of Moses. But Jesus didn't answer them. Instead, he simply bent down and wrote in the dust with his finger. Angry, they kept insisting he answer their questions. So Jesus stood up, looked at them, and said, "Let's have the man who has never had a sinful desire throw the first stone." And then he bent over again and wrote some more words in the dust. Upon hearing that, her accusers slowly left the crowd one at a time, beginning with the oldest to the youngest, with a convicted conscience, until finally Jesus was left alone with the woman still standing there in front of him. So he stood up, he looked at her and said, "Dear woman, where are your accusers? Is there no one to condemn you?" That's from the Passion Translation. Now, scholars have debated for years, what did Jesus write in the dirt? But the point was, they asked him a question and he answered with an action. And then after the action, he gave his answer. So the answer was accompanied by action. And you might think that maybe in the dirt he was writing what their sins were. But it's interesting that they left and there was an orderliness to that. So questions are valuable, answers are important, actions are profitable. How can you ask somebody a question and hopefully get a profitable answer somewhere down the road? So the students were instructed to come up with questions that you might put on a survey to go out into the streets and ask people. And there was a couple of samples there. It's just to give you an indication of what I'm talking about. So one possible question might be, have you noticed that despite the best efforts of mankind, there's still so much brokenness in the world? No matter what man tries to do, there is still brokenness. Question number 2, do you feel the world would be better if most people followed all the 10 commandments found in the Bible? I kind of think it's a no-brainer. Whether you're into religion or not, whether you have a faith or not, following the 10 commandments would solve an awful lot of problems. And the third question here, given all the available historical information, do you believe that Jesus Christ actually existed? If you do the research, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. You'll find him in Roman books, Greek books, and all kinds of people that were alive when he was alive, people that wrote about him. So I think there's enough information that would say he was a real live person. So their assignment today was to come up with some questions, and I don't have them yet to share with you, because what our students do, they get on a laptop, they type them out, and then they send it to me on email. So I'm still waiting for some of those. But a question that you might ask somebody, how about you? Did you grow up with any religion at all in your life? It's an inobtrusive question, and I love those questions because I love talking about religion. I love talking about Jesus. And and when I said to them, you need to make sure that you don't judge people. I don't care if they're a Satanist. I don't care if they're a Buddhist or somebody else that is different from your religion as a Christian. You love everybody the way they are. You love everybody and pray that they will know the love that you have inside you. So that was a great lesson we had in school today. I look forward to reading all their answers, and they were engaged. They were engaged. I think if you truly know the love of Christ, you're going to want to share the love of Christ. I kind of think that's a no-brainer. You're going to be so grateful. You're going to want to tell other people why you're grateful and give God the glory. So that's all we got for today. This is Biblebob in the studio with a cross behind us, 72 points, and that's a lot of pain points in a cross. So with that, I hope you go and spread some joy, spread some gratitude. Go tell somebody about Jesus. Tell them why he loves you, why he died for you. And if you have a question, send me questions. I love questions. All right. Thanks for your time. Go do something nice for somebody. Jesus loves you, and so do we. See ya.